Do you ever think about selling your Amazon FBA business? Well, that may not be such a distant and crazy dream after all, let me tell you. Amazon FBA businesses are definitely not looked at anymore as simple side hustles or something you do on the side to make a little bit of money. If you have an Amazon FBA business, or maybe if you're even thinking about starting one in 2021, then you should know that selling your business may be a possibility and you may be looking at making high six figures or even seven figures. This and so much more is what I learned by sitting down with Sebastian Funke, one of the co-founders and managing directors of the Stryze Group, a company that is taking the e-commerce and direct-to-consumer space by storm. The Stryze Group got an $100 million seed funding round in the end of 2020, and it is now taking on the world by storm and buying a bunch of e-commerce and Amazon FBA businesses. I was able enough to be able to sit with Sebastian and ask him a bunch of questions about selling Amazon FBA businesses, or from his side buying Amazon FBA businesses, and also how he got to where he is, the position where he represents a company that is buying millions of dollars worth of Amazon FBA businesses. If you want to learn more about what he has to say, then grab a drink, lay back, and keep on watching. Sebastian, welcome to Digital Sofia. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Sofia, it's a pleasure to be a part of your channel, and hopefully we can have a nice and fruitful conversation today.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited. I was so happy when I saw Fabienne's email, and then I got to research a little bit about you and the Stryze Group, and I was very surprised to learn that you guys started the seed funding round of $100 million. This is massive. I think anyone in the startup world would understand how big this is, and it is like just very exciting. So I would like to just start out with that bomb, and I'll let you introduce yourself and also the Stryze Group for everyone that's listening.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. Let me give you a little bit background on myself. Maybe interesting for your viewers. I have been a entrepreneur since I came out of university, which was in 2006, which actually at that time wasn't so common to start a startup. Yeah, and since ever since then, I have been an entrepreneur. I started off with a gaming company, which was called Smeet at that time. Learned immense things during that time. I mean, the company actually was part of my life until 2017. Yeah, I started it with investors in 2006. Then we scaled this up to 120 people. I also had to lay off in one day 60 people, almost twice insolvent. But then in 2014, I bought the company out of my investors and sold the company quite successfully in 2017 to another gaming company in the Netherlands. And since 2012, I have been starting companies as a kind of company builder, yeah, as someone who gives the network, the capital, maybe the idea, and put together the team and got the company off the ground. And basically, in the last 10 years, I created roughly 10 companies with my partners, 5 of them in e-commerce. In e-commerce, we started in 2012 with a company called Gromesso, which are Nespresso-compatible coffee capsules. Later, we co-founded a company which is called Stoyo, and Stoyo is dedicated to building brands and grow brands on Facebook and Instagram as an agency, but also for their own brands. They just actually in 2021 got elected as one of the fastest growing, or actually the fastest growing agency in Europe. 2017, then we started actually focusing on Amazon with a company which was Manuko. Which then grew until 2020 to one of the top 100 Amazon sellers here in Germany. 2018, with all the knowledge we had from Amazon, we created Mayos. Mayos is a company which helps Amazon sellers, maybe interesting also for your viewers, with funding and financing inventory. Yeah, that can be very interesting. And yeah, in 2020, then in the end of 2020, we founded the Stryze Group, which was basically a continuing of the Manuko. But instead of just focusing on Amazon, our headline now is D2C, direct to consumer. and not just focus on Amazon, but also focused on Instagram and Facebook. However, we believe that D2C can happen in both areas, Amazon and social commerce, but you have to have dedicated brands for each of the channels. So we believe a brand which works on Facebook is probably not working on Amazon because they work very differently. Amazon, similar to maybe eBay, they are pull marketing channels. So the customer clearly has a demand. He knows what he wants. And therefore, he's looking for the best price and then quality ratio. Whereas on social commerce, Instagram, Facebook, all those brands, they are more push channel brands, meaning the customer doesn't have a real demand yet, but due to advertising, due to Instagram influencers or your friends, people are pushed direct a certain product and then gets the idea of looking at it and eventually buying it. And in the end, the marketing and the advertising investment you have to use in both channels are very different. That means you also have to price the product different. That means you have to position it different. That means you need another brand. That's our belief. So you can take the same product, but you have to position and price it differently in order to work and really use the full potential of that specific channel. That as a quite long introduction to myself. If you have any further question on that, let's continue with that.
Just grabbing onto the last thing you said, which I just put as something that we also need to talk about. I had a little bit of experience, or I tried to dabble into the social channels, and you're right, it's completely different from Amazon, because Amazon, the person is almost looking for you. If you have things done right, it's way easier. But I definitely will want to also ask you about that, because I think it is very easy, or I think it's being sold to Amazon FBA sellers that you should maybe start with Amazon and then you just kind of build to diversify with Shopify and then market on social media and etc. But it's not that easy, I think. I think, like you said, maybe the brand needs to be different, the pricing, the strategy, everything is a little bit different, I think. More demanding, I would say.
Yeah, Sofia, I would even go one step further. I think it's impossible. It doesn't mean that you can use your products and your sourcing your sourcing contacts to create the same and use the same product to create another brand, but it has to be priced differently. And I give you even can do it. You can calculate it numerically. Why? Because if you go to Amazon, there the conversion rate on products are somewhere around 10, 15, 20%. If you more or less offer a product what the customer is looking for. So you have a conversion, let's say 15%. On the other hand, on social commerce, you have conversion rates starting at 0.5 to, if you're really good, 1.5, 2%. But then you have to be really, really good. That means you have a difference of what? Somewhere between 6 to 10-fold the conversion rate. That means if you assume you have more or less similar CPC prices, you have a much, much higher investment into marketing. And this has to be reflected then in the sales price. So I give you an example. If I buy a cover for my cell phone, I buy it because I want to protect my phone. It's not so much about how it looks like. It's more about to protect my phone. And then I go to Amazon and I pay roughly 10 euros. However, then there are brands, very successful brands on social media. To name one is Ideal of Sweden. I have nothing to do with them, but I know that they exist. They have 100 million plus revenue, and they sell their products. And in the end, it's just a mobile phone cover for 40 to 50 euros. Why? Because influencers cost money, as well as advertising costs money, and this has to be reflected in the purchasing price. In the end, it's a very similar product. You probably can source it at the same manufacturer, but the price and positioning has to be very, very different.
I think it's just not the same game. And I want to, so you mentioned, just because I'm personally interested and curious, you mentioned that right after university, you started right away in your entrepreneurship journey and with investors and all of that. How did you do that? Because it's not an easy, or like
a path that is written. You really have to kind of hustle. So I'm
Mhm.
personally interested how you went about it.
I was lucky to had co-founders which have been in the space beforehand.
Okay.
So I think everyone who is now starting something, I can recommend to find a mentor or someone who can help you. Yeah, eventually you have to give a certain part of the company to those people. But if they really experienced, if they really know what they're doing, especially in the field you're acting, they can create a value which is immense. Yeah, which you can't really measure. But in the end, especially with investors, it's a question of who knows who and who has a certain reputation and who trusts whom. So therefore, someone who has been in the space or who has raised successfully money, who has a track record, can really help you to get things off the ground.
Wow. Okay, that's a precious advice. Really, it makes a lot of sense. I
Yeah.
never thought, because for me, I think I'm like a kind of a lone wolf always. But I start to realize that, of course, if you're with someone who's already done it and they teach you the ropes, then you can much easily success. Or even even if you don't succeed, you kind of can navigate the ups and downs more easily, I
Oh
think.
yeah, and then the likeliness of succeeding is much higher. Yeah, because they also might know people which can help you on the operational level. They might know people to if you need employees, so they can give you advice. They can open doors, whatever. So you really have to understand what are the drivers of your business first of all. And if capital and raising capital and raising maybe VC capital is an important part, then you clearly have to make sure that you have partners, operational partners or investor partners as business angels who have that network. Yeah. So there's always this question of smart and dumb money. And so I really can recommend smart money. You have to do a certain research and you have to convince the right people, but this can have a tremendous impact on the company. And yes, this might be a little bit more expensive concerning equity, yeah, but I really can really recommend that. I have seen that with myself, but as an entrepreneur, but also as an investor, that you really can make a difference there.
Yeah, I mean, 50% of 100 is more than 100% of zero, so
Yeah.
it's more expensive, but yeah, I see the reasoning. And now going back to Amazon FBA specifically, or e-commerce even, but I would like
Mhm.
to understand from your point of view why Amazon FBA or e-commerce is interesting now. Having companies such as yours coming in the space kind of legitimizes it as a real business. So I want to hear from your perspective why this is an interesting space and why this is becoming more and more an interesting space.
I think Amazon business has been interesting already in the last 10 years. But yes, there was not so much focus on it from investors. That's true. But it has been a valid business model for thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s of people around the world. What did change in the last, let's say, 12 months? Um, and I still believe in the past it has been an interesting business as a kind of side hustle in the way that you did that in order to earn an extra euro on the side because you had free time or you were looking for something new. Yeah. But now with those acquirers, this actually, and that's what I'm communicating also very happily, is a market where you can have a very clear way to an exit, which is not very normal for a market. Yeah, it's a very transparent market. You have a general understanding what the company could be worth depending on the status of the company and the point in the life cycle of the company. This is pretty impressive because you can start a business today. You can get a lot of support because that's another point. I think this in this industry, you have so many people you can go to and receive help. Yeah, there is one thing is the free version is going on YouTube and checking out videos. Yeah, like in your case, where you can collect advices. Yes, of course, it's not done by 1 hour. It's probably done by spending 50 or 100 hours listening to all kinds of different people. Yeah, there's never a shortcut. But then there is also a lot of agencies and yeah, companies who can help you. There's agencies helping you doing advertising, doing content. We actually acquired a brand from an agency called Namox, which are very, very good in doing Amazon support, yeah, with content and advertising. Then you have clearly suppliers on logistic. Then you have a Q&A agencies in China. So there's a lot of support you can use. Yes, you always have to give or pay a little bit of the margin, but there's a lot of help you can get to get the company off the ground and then to grow it over time. But if you're really good, if you're really dedicated, if you spend a lot of time and then also invest a little bit of money, I believe you can build up a business within 24 months, which can be exited at a high 6-digit, low 7-digit amount.
This is very interesting, and it sounds like the whole ecosystem is there. It is a legitimate business opportunity. And would you say it's too late? Because also that's another thought that I'm having is like, okay, these big fish are coming in the water now.
Yeah.
Very soon, maybe it will be too late. Do you think
No.
it's now too late to start? And will it be too late to start in a year? What do you feel about that?
Of course, a market like this has been developing in more and more in the last years. Yeah, in 2016, 2015, the market was way different, way different. So it gets more and more professional. However, I believe there is still potential, and I see it on a daily basis. Yeah, you have to imagine I have been talking to roughly in the last 4 months, roughly to 400 different Amazon sellers. Basically regarding the sale of their company. So I think I got a pretty good overview of that. The youngest was 17, the oldest was 70. Yeah, so pretty wide range. And yes, I think there is still a lot of opportunity on the market. Also, the market data shows that more and more people are actually entering the market, especially in Europe compared to US. The density of competition is still quite low. But yeah, like always in life, you have to be good at what you're doing. You have to be dedicated, and then you can succeed, also without a question.
Okay, this is interesting, and I think also encouraging.
I would like to explain what might be a good time to sell for selling your company. In the end, it's not a question of time like 6, 8, 12 or whatever months. It's more about thinking about where is the status, the company, where is the company in the life cycle. And to explain that a little bit, what I mean is it often starts, and I think it was similar for you, it was as a side business. Yeah, so you start doing that, and then there's a point where you realize, wow, this is taking so much time now. Should I do it full time or not? You see the growth potential, but you know with the time you're investing, it's not going to grow further. So then you have the difficult question, should I do main job or should I stop it? If you go for main job, perfect. If not, it's a good time to sell. Then the next step, and it goes like it grows, but then there is a step because things change. Then you're alone. It grows well. And suddenly you realize I need support. I need my first employee. But some people don't want that. They want to continue like being like as an entrepreneur alone. They don't want to have the responsibility because it means you have to pay a fixed salary every month. You have to make sure the money is coming in and so on and so on. So then there's again the next question. Should I take this next step, get my first employee and grow it further? Or eventually, should I sell it? Because staying at the same place as a single player probably might not make sense because you just have a sidewards movement because you don't have the time to grow it further. Yeah? Even I imagine you're working already 40, 60 hours a week and there's not much time left to grow the time investment you do. So that's a good time to sell or to continue. Then you have the first employee, you have the second, the third. You're growing the business, the products coming in, more and more products, more and more employees. Suddenly you realize I need more cash because my inventory is growing. but I still have to pay my employees. I'm doing some good profits, but it goes either into my employees or it goes into inventory. I have to go to a bank to get a loan. Some people don't want that. Why? Because they're putting everything they own at risk, because usually you have to have a personal liability for that. Another good reason to think about selling. So it's about, can I grow my business by myself? Do I want to take the next step in the risk? Yeah, also internationalization. Should I have different employees? Should I do the big step? It means tax registration, all those countries. So there's always, you can grow to a certain level, and then there is the next big evaluation step, which is not like a hard wall. It's just something you carrying with you for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, where you have to make a certain decision.
Mhm.
And I think that's always a good time to think about, should I sell? Should I take some good money from the table, put it to behind the firewall and start something new? Because in most cases, those acquirers are not so much interested in buying the account or taking you on board. It's possible, but it's not necessary. And then you can start off again, because the experience, the know-how you still have. One more thing is, there's always a difference between a so-called asset deal and a share deal. An asset deal is, in most cases, I buy your brand and I buy maybe the inventory, because you did not yet put the brand and the inventory in a company, in a legal entity. The share deal is something people already have a GmbH or a legal entity, and you buy the entire entity. Important thing for everyone who's listening now, who is at the beginning, think about, how is my general legal structure. Yeah, becomes important. There's YouTube videos on that. Holding structure, if I create a holding, 2 GmbHs, has all tax advantages, not tax advantages. So something you have makes sense to look at already in an early stage, because it has implications going forward, when you want to sell the company, because the sale of a legal entity is way better taxed than from an asset deal. In our case, we like to do asset deals, but for the seller, usually it's much better to do a share deal.
Then it sounds like, first of all, there is not one set point in which you can think about selling, but rather different situations in which selling
Yeah.
may make sense. And also, you should kind of think about it from the start, if you can. As you're setting everything up, you should already kind of have it in mind. Maybe one day I want to sell, therefore, let me make the right decisions today, and like set everything up in a way that
But
it will make
Sophia,
sense.
isn't it always in life that to have at least a goal helps? Yeah, it doesn't mean that you cannot change your goal, but it always helps to have a goal you're running to, and say, hey, I want to maybe sell in 2 years, and I need this to achieve, and then you go backwards, and that means in 12 months I have to achieve this, and in 6 months this. It's always good to have a plan. In case you don't want to sell it after 18 months, just change your plan, but at least you should have something you're running to.
And you mentioned then that you've been talking to different sellers, and I thought that maybe we could talk about a specific example, one of the brands that maybe you acquired, and that we could go about it, basically how it works, how what is this black box of exiting an Amazon FBA business, or from your side to acquiring an Amazon FBA business. So is there one company that we can maybe focus on, to just so that you tell us how everything went down?
Yeah. Yes, I would like to take a company which is called Freedom Solutions, which has a product line under the brand of Argan Deluxe, which is a hair care product line out of the south of Germany, which we acquired actually this month.
Okay. Oh,
Very
fresh.
nice. It's very fresh. Yeah. It's a very nice brand. You still find it on Amazon. Very neat product line. Really very neat product line. An incredible brand. From the looks, from the positioning. There's a nice story behind that. Michael Schmieder, he was the founder of that. Did the business together with his wife. And it was a very rounded brand with a nice portfolio, not too many products. Yeah, if you're asking me what's interesting, if you generate a nice revenue base with a consistent brand in one specific market, can be a niche market, but one specific market with a appearance of the brand in Amazon, but also on the packaging, which is consistent, which looks good. The products themselves, very high quality products, very well sourced, actually sourced in Germany, also with a nice story behind that, because some of the profits are dedicated to a social project in Zambia, and also the bottles are created out of sugar cane. So a very nice brand with social product behind it, with a green element on that. So that was very interesting.
Did you go about finding them and also qualifying them as a target?
We do that through the products themselves. First, we identify products. Then through the product, we look at the seller profile, at the seller portfolio. We analyze that before we actually contact someone. And then through the imprint, which is required on Amazon and in Europe, you can start contacting them through telephone or email, and to introduce the company briefly and talk about what's the current status, what's the plans for the future, should we go into first analysis of the business or not. Michael actually was talking to different sellers at that time, but due to our experience in Amazon as well as our way of doing business compared to others, we convinced him actually to work with us. Even our offer was less than another higher offer. And then the next step is due diligence. We check everything. We look at contracts. We look at invoices. We look at everything in order to understand if the information we received is true. In this case, everything was fine. We had green lights, and then we signed a contract. In an asset deal, in most cases, you don't need a notary. In share deals, you have to go to the notary. So this was also the case. Then we acquired it, and now we're in the phase of integration, integrating the brand. It's basically our sourcing team is now in contact with the manufacturer. We are now sourcing the product. We're integrating the products in our own account. The marketing team is taking over. And the interesting part here was that Michael was not yet selling it in Europe, the product. So we're doing now the internationalization, which is very interesting for us to grow the business further. And Michael actually received the money from us and is now off to new endeavors. We have a regular contact with him. He helps us with certain parts of the business where he needs still some help. But mainly we're taking care of this business now and making sure that's going to grow.
Okay, very interesting. It sounds like you guys really care about the brand and not just basically a company that sells on Amazon and has a bunch of random products and makes money. No, you guys want a brand with a story, with a product portfolio that makes sense, that you can take and then put somewhere else, also maybe expand to different channels if it makes sense.
What is also true is that the sales price in most cases are not fully paid in the beginning. This is not just true for us, but also for other players. There's always a so-called earn-out component, which is connected to the performance of the brand over the next year or even 2 years. Therefore, making sure that the partner you're going together with is capable of actually growing the business, because in the end, it's important that the business grows so that the earn-out actually happens. And that's why you have to be careful looking for the right partner.
Okay, and I would like to go a little bit deeper on the factors that go into evaluating a possible acquisition. What matters to you when you think about financial numbers, financial considerations when you're evaluating a business?
Yeah. Normally, a business is evaluated by the following formula. You look at the EBITDA or adjusted EBITDA. Like EBITDA is more for larger companies, so it's basically even after total cost. And for example, in your case, or in smaller companies where there's just a founder, maybe 2-3 freelancers, you're going to adjusted EBITDA, which is contribution margin 2, which is basically revenues minus VAT minus product cost minus all the Amazon and marketing cost, more or less. Yeah? So this is the LTM adjusted EBITDA. LTM means last 12 months. So you're looking at the last 12 months EBITDA and take that as the base. And then this is multiplied by a factor, and the factor stands more or less for a certain time of years. Yeah, a factor of 3, for example, means we assume that over the next 3 years, we can recover the investment. So you get 3 times the adjusted EBITDA for the current. And this multiple is somewhere between the lowest, probably 1.5, and the highest, probably 4. Yeah, so that's it. Then there is this is always part of the negotiation. Is the inventory paid fully? Is it partially or not paid at all? Because some people just have very few products in the warehouse. So we always say some inventory is needed to generate the revenues. Yeah, so this is it's an asset which belongs to the business. But some people even have so much inventory that we're willing to pay some of the inventory on top. Because they just bought a significant inventory in order to make sure that they don't run out. And then there is the earnout, which is then, as I said, depending on the performance going forward. So what do we look at? Clearly, the size of the business is important. For us,
EBITDA.
Both in a way, but in the end, the EBITDA is more important for us than the revenue. So profitability, what's the amount? So it starts, I would say, at 100K per year. That's the lowest we would probably look at. We also have businesses acquiring which have 2-3 million of EBITDA plus. Yeah. And in the end, for us, the effort on looking at the business is not so much different. Yeah, I mean, probably the effort is 50% of a 100K deal compared to a 3 million deal. Yeah. So also for us, it's important to think about where we dedicate our resources. So that's one thing. Then the relative margin is important, meaning what is the EBITDA or the adjusted EBITDA margin on the revenues. Normally, what I see in the market is 20 to 25% is a good green area, including always advertising cost. So everything which is below 15 to 20%, I would say it's in the yellow, and everything below 15 we don't look at because that's too risky. Everyone who is higher than 25 to 30, I think that's getting really good, and beyond 30%, this is pretty impressive. Yeah? Especially if you still grow fast. Yeah? And fast growing means you should grow faster than the market. The market is probably growing at 20-25%. So everything beyond that, that's good. If you're doubling, if you can show double growth, then that's even more interesting. So growth is important. Continuous growth. Ideally, you have 3 years of the business or even longer, and ensuring basically nice growth over the last years. Continuous growth by adding products, by adding eventually new markets. And so that's on the financial side. So growth, profitability, and in general, the size of the business. So that's one thing. And the other hand, we are looking at Amazon. We're analyzing your listings, in order to see is this business also has a solid foundation, regarding the number of SKUs. If you have I also had someone who had a business of 3 million revenues with one product, which is also high risk. I mean, it has a very high profitability, but and low effort to keep the business running, but it's kind of a cluster risk you have there. So ideally, for example, if you have a business of 2 million revenues and you have 10, 15, 20 products, that's really nice. But I also meet people 2 million of revenues who have 500 SKUs. that's a lot of
Effort.
long tail product. Yeah, it's a lot of long term product and a lot of hassle and work. Yeah? So that also plays important. So average reviews should be beyond 4.3. Yeah, so 4.5 stars at least. Of course, in some cases you maybe have here one with 4.0 or something. That's okay. But ideally, you should have a strong review profile from quality of reviews as well as number of your reviews. Yeah, because that's more or less your buying. That's more or less behind the brand. I mean, the brand. Nobody's really looking for your brand on Amazon. It's more about brand which is shown, which is reputation. Exactly. Yeah, that's a little bit.
So these are, I think, very good benchmarks, because I think it's very hard for us to understand specific, or what are good numbers for our KPI. So this is really, really good to know how you think about it and how you look at it. We can talk a little bit more about Amazon versus social direct to consumer, or the types of direct to consumer, because I understand that this is also where you will go with the Stryze Group, both, right? How would you look at it differently? Like, how will you in the Stryze Group look at it and go about it? Also with the brands that you acquire, for example, with this brand that you just told us about that you acquired, will you also put it on social, and how will you take care of making that happen?
Mhm.
Also, what type of core competences that you have that differ from Amazon FBA? Also, for the people who are watching, is that want to maybe expand to their own channels in time after Amazon FBA, what do they need to know that it differs from one channel to the other?
I basically think you have to work in silos. Yeah, meaning you have one silo is search. This is SEO. It's Amazon, it's eBay. Eventually, it's also Google Shopping. It's also search. Then there's all those comparison pages out there, and they work very similar. It's price comparison, quality comparison. Yeah, and therefore the customer knows what he wants. He's looking for the best price quality ratio he can get. Eventually also convenience, but everyone who is on Amazon has the same convenience. Yeah, it's a little bit the difference between FBA, FBM. So there's still a better conversion rate, at least from our experience, that FBA has a better conversion rate than FBM. Why? Because you might also have the experience, if you buy FBM, you get it much later, 2-3 days, yeah, not the next day. It's always a hassle to send it back. Eventually you have to pay for sending back. So FBA is known for customers as prime. He likes that, the customer likes it, and therefore he prefers that. So this is this one market. Then there's the other market, which is push, social media. And social media has a very wide range. You have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have Pinterest, you have TikTok. Different use of content. Yeah, Pinterest and Instagram use pictures, but very different ways, very different quality of pictures. So it's a different story. You have to use it differently. YouTube and Facebook, or even YouTube and Instagram, are using videos. And TikTok, different ways, different target group. So really think about what's your target group. Do I find my target group on that specific channel? So that's the first question. And then you have to be aware that this is a push marketing channel. People are not aware of your product. They are not aware of that they need your product. They didn't even think about buying something. So it's an impulse buying. And yes, you can use targeting. And yes, I probably have certain products, for example, bathing suit for a bikini. I probably should not target to guys, but rather to girls. But on the other hand, it might make sense to guys because they buy it as a present for girls. Yeah. So what I want to say is there is something you can basically reduce the spread of your advertising, which is not effective. And all the media you're losing because you're targeting the wrong people. But in the end, it's an impulse buying, and it's as I said earlier, you have conversion rate which are really, really low. And social in general, CPC prices have gone up. Why? Because everyone, and I also see it on Amazon, everyone is now joining the bandwagon on e-commerce, yeah, and then want to have their direct-to-consumer brands and all the old brands which have been offline. Now they're trying to get into online, and you really have to create a brand, I believe, specifically on a specific channel, yeah, because they work differently. Even in offline brands, which has been sold offline, I would take the expertise in manufacturing and sourcing and create a new brand for social. Why even offline works differently than social, yeah. And in the end, it's a question: can I refinance? And I think everyone who is doing that and build up their Shopify shop, everyone has the experience. How do I refinance my advertising spend? And this is the most difficult part, and that's something you do. Like normally, you see much higher prices on products on social commerce than on Amazon, because you lose so much marketing spend due to the fact that it's not so hyper targeted like on Amazon, because someone is looking for it. And therefore, my clear recommendation is you can take the same product and put it to social, but it should be a different brand. Don't think about, like, if you take a yoga mat and a standard yoga mat, yeah, not on a, like, you can take let's say a black yoga mat or a white one or a green one. This is a commodity. If I'm not talking about a special design, it's a commodity. Why should I put this to a Shopify shop where nobody knows your brand, where where everyone expects that it takes 4 days, 5 days? It's a hassle to send it back. I go to Amazon. It's a commodity. I buy it there. If you have a yoga mat with an incredible design, which looks great, which is like everyone's like looking at it like, wow, this is great. I want to have that. That's on social commerce, because social commerce, especially Instagram, also works through images. So selling a product which has a function, it's even more difficult to sell on Instagram or Facebook, because it's very difficult to transmit the effect. Yeah, that's why they always have this before and after pictures on weight losses and so, because it's very difficult to explain the function. So if you have something which is visible and has a great design, easier to sell on social commerce. But the main message is, if it's commodity, don't do don't do a Shopify shop, because it's on Amazon. Nobody cares about your shop.
I feel like social, it's kind of like the business, or your competency is almost like the selling game, the marketing, the content. And with Amazon is much more the core of, sourcing and marketing, but like, yeah, like you said, not pushing. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Let me add on that. I think in both cases, it's marketing. In both cases, it's a different marketing game, and the sourcing in the end is important in both channels. Probably the quality you need on social has to be a little bit higher. Yeah, so probably a product which you buy from a manufacturer at €5, for social probably it's €7 or €8. Even if you sell it for 100, it's still on a low price. I give you an example. So it starts at the packaging. Yeah, on Amazon, you probably take an easy. It's not so important, the packaging. Yeah, but on social, you have to, starting at receiving the product, you have to have a great experience. You want to have this Apple packaging, yeah, which looks neat when you open it, and you have to have experience. So this costs more because you need it there. It's not €10, but it's a €1 or €2 or €3. Everyone who has bought packaging for their products, they know that a euro makes a huge difference on the quality of the packaging you're buying. Yeah, so then the entire experience, and maybe you have a handwritten card inside of the social. So all of that makes it more expensive, but makes the experience different. I think that's important on social. But in both cases, it's marketing. one more little explanation, the difference on Amazon and social. Traditional online marketing and online marketing e-commerce was always working on the fact that, or the successful business always had a lower customer acquisition cost compared to a high customer lifetime value. And high lifetime value was sometimes already just dedicated because it was a one-time sale. So you have to make profit already in the first sale. In some businesses, it's a like customer lifetime value over 12 or 24 months because the people continue buying. So you basically try to attribute as much revenue as possible to this specific customer. And then if the customer lifetime value is higher as the customer acquisition cost, then it's a good business. That's traditional e-commerce, web shop, and social commerce. If you look at Amazon, and everyone is always complaining about, oh, you don't own the customer and so on and so on. This is true. But then they don't have understood the business of Amazon. It's not in this case that you optimize customer acquisition cost versus customer lifetime value. It's about listing lifetime value and listing establishing cost. You're investing your marketing not in the customers, you're investing your marketing in your listing.
Yes.
With the investment into marketing in order to drive the listing up is not to get, yes, you're selling and yes, you're doing a sale, but in end, you're doing this in order to support the position, the organic position of your product in order to get it up and running. So it's an investment into the listing. If you give, some people do, I don't know, but some people do give out free products in order to get maybe positive reviews or something like this. I have read this on the internet that people do something like this. Then this is an investment into the listing because you get reviews. If you go do freebies and all of that, or if you give coupon codes in order to, all of that is supporting the listing. You're investing into the listing. Why? Because you want to get the listing up in order, and the higher the listing is, the more you get from the stream of this constant stream of customers. You actually cannot influence the customer. Yes, some people drive traffic from outside to Amazon. Yes, that's also possible. But in the basic business, the customer flow is given by Amazon. And your business is to try to get as high as possible to certain keywords in order to get the most of this constant stream of customers. And I think that's the big difference. Here you optimize on social commerce, you optimize customer lifetime value of one customer. In Amazon, you optimize on the listing lifetime value. And I think that's a way different thinking.
Okay, and then I would love to close it out by asking you, what is your top advice for a founder that is now either starting or early stages and has the goal to maybe in 12 months, 24 months, sell the business to a company like the Stryze Group?
I would probably say take this video and start it off from the beginning, because I think we already had a lot of advices in there. And if you follow at least some of them, I think you already will be successful on whatever you're doing. I think there's not a one general advice. I think there's also, tell my people in the company, there is no one big thing you change and everything runs better. Amazon is, and I think every business is optimizing on many different areas of the business. If you get, and I think it's different to measure, but if you get your business every day, 365 days a year, better 1% every day, it's going to be incredible. And this can be very small things like starting with the product. Every time you reorder products, don't just reorder. Either get a better price or optimize something on the product every time, because you usually buy for what, 6 months inventory, and in 6 months the market has changed already. The competition is optimizing the product. It doesn't have to mean that that you completely change the product, but do something better. It's a little bit better price. If the current manufacturer is not going to do that, then you find an alternative pricing. Usually, then if you have an alternative pricing, manufacturers go down the prices. So that's one thing. Try to optimize the advertising. Yeah, get that your ARCOS or TACOS 0.5% down. It's better. Yeah, try to put a new product to the platform. Try to set goals for the reviews. Yeah, how many reviews you want to have in 2, 3, 4 months. And as I said earlier, have a clear goal where you want to stand. Make your execution plan. It's clear that you're not going to hit 100% precisely what you planned 12 months ago. Some goals will be met with a discount. Some will be actually with a surplus. So, but have a plan, have a clear strategy, and execute on that. Get people to that. Talk about your business. Think about who can help you with the business. Have aggressive planning. Yeah, all of that.
I see. Having a plan and a little bit better each day takes the crown.
Yeah, and if you do small steps, and then if you get better, then make bigger steps and make more aggressive plans.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for your time.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
Very welcome. Yeah.
This information is worth a lot, really. So I'm really, really grateful, and I'm sure that everybody watching us will also be very, will take a lot of value from it.
Perfect, Sofia. That makes me happy.
I will also link the Stryze Group and your socials down below so that people can contact you, contact the Stryze Group. And yeah, I hope you can also keep in touch because a lot of good things are going to happen, I'm sure. And yeah, I'm very happy to connect.
That's it for today, guys. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All of the Stryze groups and also Sebastian's socials and information will be linked down below. And we'll see you next time for another one. Bye!